Tonight on America's Hope, we focus on that dramatic daylight rescue that the Israeli Defense Forces conducted to rescue 4 hostages who were taken into captivity by Hamas terrorists on October 7th. All that and more on America's Hope. It starts right now. From the NTD Global headquarters in New York, I'm Kelly Wright, and this is America's Hope. Good evening. Thanks for joining us this hour. So over the weekend, Israel Defense Forces conducted a dramatic daytime rescue of 4 hostages. And in Washington, D.C., thousands of pro-Palestinians marched around the White House demanding a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in the Middle East trying to broker a deal for the fighting to end. So there's a lot going on to discuss how America and Israel have to work together in order to bring peace to the Middle East. But we get back to that dramatic rescue. IDF spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari stated this: Israel Special Forces conducted a complex hostage rescue mission and successfully rescued 4 hostages from Hamas captivity in Gaza. Noah Argamani, Almog Meyer John, Andrei Kozlov, and Shlomi Ziv were rescued on June 8th after spending 8 months in captivity since they were brutally abducted by Hamas terrorists on October 7th at the Supernova Music Festival, which became the scene of a massacre when Hamas terrorists and Palestinian militants carried out a gruesome surprise attack on Israel kibbutzim and cities along the Gaza border. We're going to discuss the rescue tonight and a lot more. In fact, later in our show, we will meet Eli Wortman, a man who witnessed the October 7th attack on his kibbutz, and another man, an American, who moved to Israel years ago. Jonathan Feldstein will describe what his life has been like living in Israel and also tell us that his son now serves in the Israel Defense Forces. But first, we go to Israel to discuss the latest developments with member of the Knesset Sharren Haskell. Sharren, thank you for joining us this hour. I want to ask you first and foremost, what was your reaction to the dramatic rescue that took place in daytime by a special forces unit of the IDF to rescue those 4 hostages?
Wow, Kelly, I was just so happy. I couldn't stop crying. Tears were falling down, and it was just the most incredible thing to know that some of our daughters and sons and parents are back home. And they were rescued from those dungeons of Hamas where they were abused physically and emotionally.
It was really quite a dramatic rescue taking place in the broad daylight, Sharren, and you're there joining me from the Knesset right now in Jerusalem. And look, Israel has stated all along from a government perspective and even from the Israel Defense Forces, they have stated all along that Hamas terrorists actually build their tunnel system under civilian homes, hospitals, and schools. And following the completion of the IDF examinations of where they were able to rescue these 4 hostages who were held in captivity, they, according to our reports, were able to confirm that Abdullah al-Jamal, an operative in the Hamas terrorist organization, actually held the hostages captive in his home in Nuseirat. Talk to me about this.
Wow. So first of all, it's important to say that if there's one thing the international community taught jihadist terrorists in the last 8 months is that you can get away with the most horrific murders, including burning babies and raping young girls, as long as you hide behind civilian population. If you build your terrorist military base underneath hospitals and schools, you can get away with it. And that's a very dangerous lesson that terrorist groups all around the world are learning at this time. These groups on purpose are hiding at tunnels and military bases under very heavily populated areas with civilians. They are using them as human shields. More so, one of the hostages was held in an Al Jazeera reporter's home. His father, who was there as well, is a doctor.
Wow.
These are the kind of people that would broadcast to you news during the day, while at night they are holding hostages in their home, torturing them, starving them. Yet, some people in certain media outlets actually take their reporting as a matter of truth. This is like taking news from ISIS or from the Muslim Brotherhood. No one would believe them. But when it comes to Hamas, when it comes to Israel, when it comes, matter of fact, to Jews, then there's a different standard. Everything is allowed.
Sharren Haskell, we're going to take a slight break. When we come back, we'll talk about the fact that the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in the region, and he's talking about a plan, a proposal that is to get an end to hostilities there in Israel, between Israel and Hamas. We'll be back with more in just a moment. And welcome back to America's Hope. I'm talking to Minister of the Knesset, Knesset Sharren Haskell. She's joining me from the Knesset in Jerusalem tonight. And Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Sharren, arrived in Egypt today on what is his 8th visit to the region. And it comes at a critical time in the Israel-Gaza conflict. As you know, the Biden administration is looking to increase pressure on both Hamas and Israel to agree to that always talked about ceasefire. And the visit follows a 3-phase ceasefire proposal reportedly from Israel, outlined by President Joe Biden on May 31st. And in that proposal, the report says that it is centered around achieving a permanent end to the conflict, as well as the release of all Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners. Plus, it focuses on the reconstruction of Gaza, which has been ruled by the terrorist group Hamas since 2006. Does this plan and does the Israeli government support this plan?
So we don't know all the details of this deal yet. And so we will have to consider it once it's on the table. But a few things about it. Time after time, Hamas is the one that refused all deals that were on the table. So it's not that Israel needs to agree to it first. They need to take it to Hamas first. Okay? When Hamas agrees to any kind of agreement, then they should come and talk to the Israelis, because the Israelis will make a lot of compromise in order to bring back our family members back home. But we have to make sure that all of our family members come back home, and all the ones who are alive now return alive now. Now, about a permanent ceasefire, that only talks about the Israeli side. Okay, we didn't want this war. We didn't start this war. There was a ceasefire on the 6th of October. Hamas defied it. Hamas broke it. Okay, and when they do that, if they sign another ceasefire, you need to remember, and you have, to know that it's not a permanent one, not from the Israeli side, but from Hamas's side. They have said over and over again that whenever they have the opportunity, they will do it again and again and again. So they will only wait to build up more power, build more ammunition, prepare better, and do it again. Okay? Israel didn't want it. We don't want it. We don't want to live in war. Okay? We love our children. We love our family. We don't want to send them to the front line. We have no other choice but to defend our family, our community, and our land. So, knowing that with this deal, if we sign a ceasefire, this is only a ceasefire on Israel. And at one point or another, Hamas is the one that's going to break it.